Gravy today. A few things I was hoping that you'd get done ahead of time, but if you just want to watch and kind of learn and do this a little bit later on, that's fine too. We did have our biscuits made this morning. I did include a recipe in there. One thing that I wanted to tell you, when you're making biscuit recipe, you don't want to overwork your dough. So I believe it's in the recipe, but when you're mixing your ingredients together, a nice floured table, lightly mix your dough. You want that butter to be, you want to almost see that butter in your dough, and you're going to get a nice flaky crust. The gravy, which to me, any sauce in a recipe is my favorite part. Being a French background, sauces are kind of the epicenter of French cuisine. So I take a lot of care in sauces. I have sauces on just about everything, even at home. But what I have here, and you can kind of see, is I have my sausage and butter starting to heat up here. And I've started to crumble my sausage, and I like to use just a flat edge spatula to make sure that sausage gets about the size that I like it. And again, I always tell people, when you're cooking at home, you're cooking for yourself. So do it the way that you like it. One thing that's really good advice that I got from me is, if I'm trying out a new recipe that I've never done before, I always try to go through and make it exactly right the first time. And then I'll go through it and I'll tweak it a little bit here and there, depending on what's seasonal, maybe what I like, what I don't like. Maybe it was too much pepper, maybe not enough pepper. But that's the beauty of cooking at home. So we have our butter in here. It's already melted. I believe it was 4 ounces and 11 ounces of sausage. If you wanted to add a full pound of sausage, by all means, go ahead. And then we also have a sage gravy recipe that we included. If you didn't want to have the meat, it's a nice sage gravy. It's got a nice peppery kick to it. So if you don't like a lot of pepper, hold back on the pepper a little bit. But that's a great vegetarian option. And again, alter it any way you want for your diet, or however you like to eat, your lifestyle. So I got this nice and warmed up. You can see it sizzling here, okay? And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna add our garlic, fresh chopped garlic here. We're gonna add our garlic and let that garlic cook for just a minute or two to get that nice garlicky flavor. Raw garlic is in your face. You never want to add raw garlic to anything, if I could advise to anything. But this way, that garlic flavor infuses into the butter and permeates through the whole dish. All right. I'm missing something. Can you get me just this much flour?
Yeah.
Please?
Absolutely.
I apologize. But what we're gonna make, as soon as I get that flour, and this is fine, as long as that garlic is cooking, we're okay. When I'm going through the grocery store and I'm trying to figure out what I want to cook, I'm gonna look at what's fresh and what's good. Even though I might be craving an avocado, sometimes you go to the grocery store and your avocado is no good. So you definitely want to have a nice flexible palate to maybe pick some of the nicer stuff that's in the grocery store. I did have an avocado here today that I loved, so I thought I would add that to the dish as well. And I just want to remind everybody, if you are cooking at home, I have my water and my vinegar heating up over here for my poached egg. I'm going to show you a real fun way to poach an egg while we wait for our butter and sausage to cook down here. So we got our 4 ounces of flour. We're going to add that in. And what we're making here is a very classic roux, spelled R-O-U-X. In French cuisine, roux is used all the time. You can make roux ahead of time if you're making another sauce. In this case, we're adding and making the roux right into the sauce.
Chef, I have one question from the group. We have no buttermilk. Please advise on the substitute.
Is this for the biscuits, I'm assuming, for the buttermilk? You can actually use regular milk, a little bit more butter content. Fat content is always preferred, so maybe a heavy cream or maybe a half and half. If you have some half and half in your fridge that you use in your coffee, you could go ahead and use that. The regular milk is going to be fine. It's not going to hurt anything. It's just going to have a little bit different texture to it, but it's not going to affect the flavor too much at all. Okay. So now we have our flour in here. We've let it cook, and I'm going to add our pepper. If you have a grinder, I always prefer a grinder because you get those nice oils from the peppercorn. If you don't, totally fine. And again, add pepper to the amount that you like it. A little bit spicy. I love a lot of pepper in my sausage gravy. So we're gonna add a little bit more. All right. Now that we've got that in there, we're gonna I have chicken stock here. You can buy your chicken broth, your bone broth. Any kind of broth is fine. A vegetarian, vegetable-based broth is fine. I never add salt until the end when I'm adding a broth because sometimes it can be a little salty. Now you can buy the no sodium, perfectly fine. But then you can add the salt as you feel necessary, and that way we don't oversalt it. Because sometimes also, if you're doing a sausage gravy, it can also be, the sausage can be a little salty, okay? But what we don't want to do, since our roux and our butter and our stuff is hot, we don't want to add a hot liquid. We want to add a room temperature or cold liquid. And what that does is it helps with the forming of lumps in our gravy, okay? Now, since we're using a chicken-based stock in this is the version of the French, what the French call a velouté. And then we just alter it slightly with the sausage and whatever else that we want to put in it, okay? And as you see, I'm stirring, and it's starting to thicken up as the liquid starts to absorb that flour, okay? And we want to stir constantly until it starts to thicken up. Now, you can definitely make this sauce a day ahead of time. If you've got company coming over and you don't want to spend your time, just when you heat it back up, it tends to be a little bit thicker the next day. So we're just going to add a little bit of liquid to it, whether that's a little milk or a little water, and maybe adjust the seasoning slightly. And as you can see, we're starting to get a really nice consistency here. All right. Now this is when you taste it. Adjust for seasoning. A little bit more pepper. And that looks beautiful. Now, one thing we're gonna wanna do is we're gonna wanna set this to the side. I got a little stove over here. I'm gonna turn it on real low. What you wanna do is cook it for at least 5 minutes. And what that does is it cooks some of that flour texture and flavor out of it so you don't notice the flour so much, okay? And this goes for any kind of sauce that you would add a roux, which again, the roux is the butter and the flour, okay? All right, so I've got that simmering real low. I'm just gonna occasionally go over, but once that thickens up, you don't have to stir it quite as often. It's just in that initial thickening stage that you're gonna wanna, and make sure you get the edges because that's where the flour and the roux like to hide, okay?
About how long should you be stirring it consistently for?
Depending on how hot your heat is, I mean, that only takes about 2 or 3 minutes in front of the camera here. If you're cooking on lower heat, it might take a little bit longer. But you'll definitely notice when it starts to thicken up. Okay, I hope that answers your question. Okay. All right. I have water and I have vinegar, a little bit of vinegar. What that does is it slightly lowers the temperature of the water. What that does is when you add the egg yolk, it helps keep the egg or the egg white together. And I'll show you a few tricks. All right. In the meantime, we've got our biscuits here. I like tomatoes for breakfast, a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, especially when they're in season. There's nothing better for breakfast, in my opinion, than a little bit of sliced tomatoes. But feel free just to do the biscuits and the gravy. Also, part of what I love about food is taking things that I love and kind of mixing and combining and putting them together to create an amazing dish. So I'm from the Midwest. I'm from Michigan. Biscuits and gravy are a staple. As I grew through my career and I opened up my palate a little bit, I went and I absolutely love Eggs Benedict for breakfast. So if you think about this dish and how we're setting it up, it's kind of a Midwest version of an Eggs Benedict. I've figured out probably 40 to 50 ways to do an Eggs Benedict. This is one that my dad loves again. But we're basically opening up our biscuit. And an Eggs Benedict classically has English muffins, maybe some Canadian bacon, a poached egg, and a hollandaise. Today I'm making it with the biscuits. You can use a sausage, you can use bacon. I love prosciutto. I happen to have some prosciutto, so I laid some prosciutto down. You don't have to do anything. You could put some tomato there, you could put some avocado, anything that you have around that you think would go good with this. Again, it's your palate, it's your food. All right. Remember, I'm continuously stirring my thing every so often. Now, I have a strainer like this, and if you don't have a strainer, that's perfectly fine. What you can do is just crack your egg into a dish. But the reason why I like to crack an egg into a dish is if there's some unwanted stuff inside our egg, we're not putting that in there. Also, if you have a strainer, it gets a few of the loose egg whites away, and it just makes for a little bit nicer poached egg. And as you can see, I'm starting to turn the water and make kind of a whirlpool. I'm going to crack my egg into my strainer, let it drain for just a second, and I'm going to lower that egg into the water. And I hope you can see that. I'm going to tip it up just a little bit, but what that did, me spinning it like that, created it to fall to the middle and created all that egg white to sit right close together, okay? And we're going to let that cook for 2 or 3 minutes. I'm going to turn it off to the side, make another little whirlpool, thank you. And I'm going to crack another egg, and we're going to do this again because we're going to do 2 eggs on this dish.
And I have one question from the crowd. What does the vinegar do for the egg poaching?
It helps keep the egg, that egg broke. It helps keep the egg together is what it does. It kind of alters the temperature of the water a little bit, so the egg whites cook just a little bit faster and adheres together. Okay, so again, I'm lowering that egg in there. And then if you have some egg whites left over, you can save those and have an egg white omelet the next day. All right. So what we're looking for is make sure the egg whites are cooked all the way through, and you can kind of touch it and see. I like a nice runny egg. If you like a more firm egg yolk, you could just cook it a little bit longer. Completely up to you. I probably wouldn't cook it any longer than 8 minutes. 2 or 3 minutes, maybe 4 is going to get you that nice runny egg yolk. Okay.
If they don't have the strainer, they just crack the egg into the water. Is that correct?
They can crack the egg into the water. I always prefer to crack it into a dish in case an egg yolk breaks. Then I lower the egg into the water. It just, it's kind of a little more fail-proof. Now, you don't have to throw the egg away. You can use it for something else. Make some scrambled eggs. But that's why I use a little container, just in case it breaks or there's something in there that I don't want. Eggshells tend to stick to the side of a bowl, so you won't get your eggshells in there. It'll stick to the side of the bowls if you happen to get an eggshell. So yeah, funny story. I made scrambled eggs for my little nephew when he was like 5 or 6, and I accidentally got an eggshell in there, and we sat down to eat, and he bit into the eggshell, and he's like, Uncle Tim, I'm not a chef, and even I don't get eggshells in my scrambled eggs. So funny story. All right, so this gravy is ready to go. I'm actually gonna turn it off for right now because our eggs are just about done here. All right, you can see that. Can you see that? Okay, and we're gonna place it right on top, right there, just like that. I'm gonna let that one cook for just another minute. Hopefully everybody's doing okay.
Yeah, I think feel free to unmute yourself if you'd like and chime in.
All right.
Trying to keep up with the chef, but I think he's got a lot more experience than us.
That's okay. Hopefully we're recording this so you can go back and look at it later. All right, so there is our 2 eggs poached on top of our nice biscuits. We've got some prosciutto there. We're gonna take our nice sausage gravy.
And then would you mind pulling the plate towards you just so I can zoom in a little more?
Like this, yeah?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Thank you.
And then what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna put a little bit on each one. Okay, now, if you have some green onions in your kitchen or you have anything, maybe some black pepper as a little garnish, like so. I happen to have a little bit extra prosciutto we'll just garnish the top with. And then these are microgreens. And you might not have these at your house, but just an example of how pretty biscuits and gravy can look. Can you see that?
Yeah, that's perfect.
All right, so it doesn't take a super fancy dish to make it look nice for some guests, even at home. If you're making this for yourself, how nice of a Sunday or Saturday morning will this be if that's sitting in front of you with your coffee or tea and some great company? All right. Oh, let's put some avocado on there too. Yeah, there we go. All right. How did everybody do? Do we have any questions? I love questions about anything. It doesn't have to be about this dish. It could be about anything cooking.
We're getting a couple of looks great, nice in the chat. How long does the gravy stay good for?
So typically anything that has a meat, any sort of protein in it, there's a few other items, typically last about 7 days. Okay. I've also frozen this. It doesn't come out quite as good, but if you put it back in a pot with some milk or some heavy cream and stir it real good, you can even freeze a little bit of it. Definitely the day before. You can make it 2 days before without it being an issue at all. Great question.
Thanks for recording this too. Our son is enjoying learning to cook off campus, so we'll share these with him. He loves these kinds of dishes with eggs and biscuits.
Oh, that's awesome. I love when people cook at home. Going the wrong way.
There you go, then I can zoom in.
If you're ever on campus, hop on in. We can give you a tour of the kitchen. Fantastic. I see a lot of chats in there. Is there?
Yeah, people are just saying thank you, looks great, nice, would love to visit the kitchen.
Great.
We'd love to have students come work for us.
Absolutely. Yeah, we have, I mean, it's obvious that we love hospitality students come and work with us, but we have students all over campus that come and work with us. We're very, very class friendly, which is a very big bonus for students. We know how hard it can be to get a job because of their class schedules. We cater to that because we know what it's like. We don't need any experience coming to work with us. We are an educational facility, so that's what we do. That is a rarity as well. A lot of people will ask, a lot of companies will ask for experience, so that's great. We have a lot of fun. We listen to music. We make great food. And it's a great way for students to eat.
And to eat really good food.
Yeah. I mean, I'm biased, but yeah. Any other questions out there?
What you said, it's open to students how if they want to?
We have hospitality majors and non-hospitality majors in our kitchen and in the front of the house as well. So you don't necessarily have to be a hospitality major to come and work with us. And we've even turned, I don't want to say turned, but we've also encouraged or excited individuals about joining hospitality, even if it might be a little late in their student career, even beyond their graduating, they've gone on to be hospitality individuals and professionals. Just by working down here with us, they get a taste for it, and it's addicting.
I do have a question in the chat. How would you make watermelon pancakes?
Ooh, the question is, how would I make watermelon pancakes? Well, I tell you, I've never done that. I would probably try to puree the watermelon, strain out as much of the juice as possible. Now, watermelon is a ton of water, so you're not going to get a lot of pulp. But pull that pulp out, incorporate it into your pancake mix, and maybe use a little bit of that juice left over instead of a milk or buttermilk, whatever your pancake recipe calls for. Substitute equal parts, pull out a little bit of your milk and add that with your watermelon water per se, but definitely try to get that pulp out of there and use that pulp. That would be interesting.
Sorry, use the pulp or use the liquid?
Both.
Okay.
Use all the pulp that you can, but substitute some of the milk for some of the liquid from the watermelon. I would try with that. I would start with that and see how it goes.
That sounds very interesting. And then they said tastes good with lemon curd on top. That sounds delicious.
That sounds delicious, yeah.
She said thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I think if there's any other questions, we'll take them, but otherwise, does anyone want to show us what they've got so far? Oh,
We're just mixing up our biscuits now.
awesome.
It definitely helps to have, I labeled it as mise en place. When you're demoing and you're doing something like this, and what mise en place means is literally mess in place. You have all your ingredients sitting here, and you add them in.
I love it. Thanks for sharing. Awesome.
All right. Ask Sharon.
Thank you all so much for joining.
Thank you for this event. It was great. I hope we get to do it again.
Awesome. Yeah, us too. I see some claps and some things, so thank you very much. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you all. All right. Enjoy your breakfast. Go ahead and end the meeting. Oh, it doesn't let me end.
Oh, I see Sharon.
Awesome.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you for the email. Thanks everybody for joining.
Yes, how did we do, Sharon? Are we okay?
You did great.
Awesome.
Woohoo! Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I know.
have one that just joined.
We'll have to.
We can forward them the link, correct?
Yeah, hi Carolyn. She's just connecting right now.
I can show her the dish.
Yeah, great. It's trying to connect to her, but we're not getting a good connection
You
either.
see the bubbles.
Yep.
Sharon, will we have the download as well, or will that just be on your end?
Oh yeah, you'll get it as well. I didn't start the recording until I came into the kitchen though, so I missed the very beginning. I'll do a little edit and I'll put that back in there so that, that's explained, on the intro to the video. Because we got there right as, Chef, right as you were talking about that we're doing biscuits and gravy today.
Okay.
Cool.
I'll redo the intro and add that and put that in front of the recording so that it makes sense when people start the recording.
Awesome.
Right, Carolyn is still trying to connect. It's not really working. Her connection isn't going through for some reason. I don't know why. But Carolyn, if you can hear me, we've recorded this and we're going to send it out so that you can take a look at it. Hopefully that reached her.
Hopefully. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, great. Okay, I think we'll probably leave the meeting then, and
Okay.
thank you so much. This was
Thank you,
really
Sharon.
fun.
You're welcome.
That
Thank
worked
you.
out. Yes.
That
of
was
course.
great.
All right.
You'll have to let us know what you think of the biscuits and gravy.
Yep. And I got to go because my gravy is simmering right behind me. So,
Fantastic.
I love it. Get back to your gravy. Okay.
all right.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.